you're talking about it on the school bus, I'd love to talk with you about it at home. And I think my best role for them in the election context is to provide context. They hear a lot of one-liners at school. And so when they come home and tell me about those one-liners, I try to say, oh, do you know where this came from? Let me tell you a little bit about what happened surrounding this, so maybe you can understand what your friend said a little bit better.
Yeah, and then I don't know if either of you have had this experience, but sometimes, we're just talking maybe among the parents, or we're having a conversation with someone on the phone, and I've had the experience where the next day my child comes home and says, Mama, I told my friend what you said, blah, 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 and so it feels like they're always listening. And I'm wondering, especially when it comes to sensitive subjects, Sarah, should we go there with kids, or are we really only answering the questions that they bring to us?
Well, with the massive caveat that you know your kid and the topic will affect the answer to that question, I think there is something really important in remembering that there is a developmentally appropriate way with which they approach things, right? And the problem with these topics is not necessarily the topics themselves, but it's usually that they are inherently nuanced and complicated, and kids' brains want to reduce and simplify, right? They're trying to build some simple narratives. They're trying to figure out the world. They're trying to sort categories. And because of the fact that they are children, their categories are necessarily very, very broad. I still deal with this with my 15-year-old. I'll say that's really reductive. It's not that black and white. And so I think less it is the subject matter or the complexity or even adult nature of the subject matter, and it's the fact that the kids want to find a black and white, like, I'm going to go back and tell my friends that this is the right answer. And there's just not an easy way to explain to them, hey man, it's not black and white. There isn't an easy answer, and their parents are going to see it differently. And so I think that's the tension we're feeling. That's the difficulty, is that they want to make it simple when we know it's complicated.
Yeah, and the big kind of elephant in the room here, Beth, let's put it right on the table: social media and news coming from online sources. And I'm just wondering, how we even begin to, when we as adults are not able necessarily to discern fake news or misinformation, because it's just getting so much better at looking real, how do we even begin as parents to, work in some kind of media literacy when, the reality is possibly they don't want to hear from us this kind of critical approach to consuming their social media?
Well, I think you make a really good point that we cannot be the be-all and end-all of media literacy for our kids. They have to get that from a variety of sources. So I try to be really clear about my goal. When my daughters ask me about something political, my one goal is for them to be willing to ask me again, to come back and have another conversation with me. If I lecture them on the messed up ways the TikTok algorithm decides what to feed them, they're not going to come back and talk to me again. So if they tell me about something that they saw online that's just wrong, I will say something like, can you show me that? Here are the things that I notice about this. Here are the places where I think they're trying to sell you something instead of inform you. And let's talk about the difference between being sold and being informed.
We're talking with Sarah Stewart Holland and Beth Silvers, hosts of the podcast Pantsuit Politics. So Sarah, I think one of the ways in which knowing about politics, plays out into real life is that it can lead to civic engagement. It can lead to, your children being involved in democracy, which I think, regardless of what your politics are, we could all agree that's a good thing. And I'm just wondering if there are ways in which, especially in such a divisive political environment, we can raise good kind of citizens outside of, one party or the other, or one issue where we stand on this side or the other. Is that even possible?
Absolutely. I'll give you an example with my son. To your point about social media, he was taking in a lot of social media that was very cynical and very critical of our country, of our economy, of lots of aspects of our modern American lives. And after, about the 6th or 7th time having the same conversation, I said, time out. Can I suggest something? You're clearly upset about this problem. You don't think I'm taking it seriously enough, or maybe the people in charge aren't taking it seriously enough. How about instead of just doing this over and over again and engaging in the critique, we do something impactful about it. So he's always had a heart for homelessness. And so now once a week, he goes to our community food pantry and volunteers for 2 hours after school. And it has made a massive difference in how he sees this topic, how he engages with people about it. Instead of feeling spun up by the problem, he feels like he's doing something to address it. And I think that's what's so often missing with kids and adults in politics, is this sense of like, we all agree on the problem, but what comes next?
And Beth, last words. Election day is going to be a highly tense moment, and maybe the day, the week after. What advice do you have for us parents to, hold our kids in that moment with us?
The best parenting advice I ever received was don't protect your kids from hard things, because they will have hard things in life. So I think about tense days like election day, and try to tell my kids everybody's tense because this is important. It matters. It's a big deal. And also, whatever happens, we will put one foot in front of the other and keep going. We'll find our way through it.
What are you talking about? I get it. You've never played the position. There's certain things and certain issues and certain...
I think nobody expected to hear what Kanye West's daughter just said publicly in a recent interview. Listen to this.
What's one lesson you'll never forget?
To trust God only. Don't trust nobody else except God, because no, just
Did you hear what I just heard?
Best day of your life.
maybe in Italy. It was just like very chill, just spending time with my siblings. Just that's when I really brought them close to God. And I was like, we had this house there, and there was like these devil statues, and I was like, no, girl. And I was like, what should we do? We gotta pray. So then I taught Shy and Song how to pray, and
This is the biggest bitch move that I've ever seen by any NFL fucking quarterback that I've ever seen, watched, or played with. You tired?
He's in Wisconsin, pairing with retired Green Bay Packers quarterback Brett Favre. The U.S. Supreme Court is allowing Virginia to resume its purge of voter registrations that the Commonwealth says is aimed at stopping people who aren't U.S. citizens from voting. The nation's high court acted on an emergency appeal by Virginia's Republican administration after a federal judge found that the state illegally purged more than 1,600 voter
Many women are just using these days.
sometimes all we need in life.
States and other mediators are ramping up efforts to halt the wars in Lebanon and Gaza. They're circulating new proposals to wind down the regional conflict during the Biden administration's final months. Negotiations
Wow, what's up?
And the warring parties have shown no signs of backing down. Two senior White House officials will visit Israel tomorrow for talks on
No, I'm not.
fighting, proposals to end the war between Israel and
I'm just leaving a dental appointment. I hate dental appointments. Actually, I like them. I like to get my teeth cleaned.
Bitches know that I'm thinking, I'm thugging, I'm still in the street. If he run up out in the league, clean the block and repeat. Get hot, throw that bitch in the creek, hit the spot, it's 100 a pick. I'm with violence, and I take down my boy, this shit wet as a sand. Boy, down to the bitch, if he reach, I'm the go to the deal. Let's be real, Stevie wanted to see that I'm having this shit and I'm fluid. I was called every week, I can't sign, I got can't shit to beat. Plus I touch 80K every week, I gon' lie this shit sweet. And if you step on my feet on my soul, you should slide every week. Ever shot out a jet with no dose so the niggas can see who and what, just to see if they straight. Don't get put on the T on the net, trying to act like a gangster. I got enough bread for the fee. Bitch, you know I'm a G, I got killers, cause straight out things, they pull up on the roof of the stage. I'm fucking for free, don't you say the pussy a fee, cause you bound to get left in the street. I make 10 off the feet and I ain't touched the bonus for weeks, but I know we're OG for the G. Cross the line, but I say, gotta know I ain't going for nothing. You think that I'm kept coming see?
Just a minute. The night we go.
Hey, let it whip in the pot of my spot out that paddle with lock. Once the fees had a taste, it was high. Think I'm capping, I'm not. Well, you better go ask for my spot on my son. It was me and D-Rock. From the north to the block, boy, that shit just skipping the hop. Look at me getting scats out the lot. This shit out off a rock, now I'm rolling. My bitch, she controller. She like to keep running my block. Let it whip if he running my spot. Let it whip if he think that he hot, just showing me now. Let it whip when I'm spinning the block. Whip again if we ain't get him got. When we catch me, pop out the whip since he said that I fly. Out of leather, the shit all night. Now let's talk about the wine. And the chain and shit. All of these race at the side, I turned up a notch. Hey.
some years later. Wow.
Just past Saturday opening.
Hell, today was Stephen A. every
I knew I was like that baseball channel.
great analysis.
Let's see, yeah. Pothead would always admit that they're all right. Let's see, yeah. Oh, yeah, by the way, Jessica Mendoza, understand all business.
Yeah.
She's a fine broadcaster, in my opinion. I like what she brings to the table. Yeah, very talented attributes. Former softball player. She's great at what she does. Let's see here. Hey, did anybody fall asleep in class, and did your teacher have something weird to do about it?
Oh, you know what? I don't want to eat
What
that.
happened, man?
I know I want to eat. I want to eat a.
Had a time where I fell asleep, and I tell you what, my favorite story about somebody else falling asleep, we were at a team meeting, real quick, team meeting at LSU, and we watched the film Cold Room and all that, naturally just fall asleep. Lights come on, and the coach goes, John Hazard goes, John. And he popped up, he opened his eyes, and he said, sorry, coach, I was just praying for the team. Sorry, coach, that's a great answer, coach. I was just praying for the team. He had his eyes open, but yeah, no, it's hard to stay awake.
Now, in 8th grade health class, I had my first migraine headache and I didn't know what was going on. My vision was blurry. I was nauseous. And my head was down and I'm covering my eyes. And he's like, get your head up. And I'm like, man, I really can't. I have a headache. And he kept yelling at me. And finally, he just let me go to the health class, the health room. The health room. Nurses.
Did I get you late now?
Yeah, let me go home. Oh, that's a big win. Yeah, but I didn't know how to communicate that it's not a regular headache. Trust me, I would rather have this not be happening, sir. Man, I fall asleep and wake myself up snoring. You know, and you're like, oh my god, catch yourself. Somebody hear that? Oh no, is everyone looking at me right now? That was always drooling. Not like a drooling. I was always a big bedtime guy. You know, I liked it. 9 p.m. boom, I was out. You know, so by the time school showed up at 8 in the morning, I was fine.
Yeah, I used to think it was a setup because why are you making it so cold in here?
It is cold.
It is hard to stay awake when it's that cold. All I want to do is just bundle up, lay down, and go to sleep, get cozy, man. We used to have a high school teacher. He would slam the book on the floor if you fell asleep. Yeah, wake up. Or if you are a real knucklehead in class and you fall asleep all the time and you're just a bad student, he would slam the book on the desk back.
I could have got fuel from right there, actually.
Listen to me whine. Look at everything